Welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, where we sit down and have real conversations with business leaders that have been where you are. During these interviews, we'll dive into what it takes to improve systems and champion processes that maximize performance. Each week, our trailblazing guests share their experiences and understanding of the workforce to help inspire change, challenge our thinking, and share what it takes to successfully travel the road to profitability. Now here's our host, co-founder and chief evangelist of About Time and WorkMax, Mike Merrill. Hello and welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Merrill, and I am sitting down again with Dominique Main, who is a director at Epcon Communities, a builder with a mission to build homes, neighborhoods, and lifestyles that provide one remarkable experience. So this is part two of mine and Dominique's discussion of the series. Had a great discussion last week, lots of fun. Again, I saw a presentation session that she did at the Brain AEC Summit a few months back and thought it was just a wealth of information and something that our listeners could find value and benefit from. So we talked about the 10 challenges that home builders are facing today and how to best overcome those. So we're going to talk about the second half of that list and continue our conversation. So thank you again, Dominique, for joining us. Really looking forward to having more of our conversation.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I really enjoyed our last session and looking forward to talking again.
Awesome. Well, I am as well. So I guess just right off of the bat here, the next challenge in your list, and we'll be a little less formal about it and more conversational, I think, but really talking about financing and what companies are doing to get more creative with the current market conditions. What can you share with us on that?
Yeah, so if it's okay, Mike, what I'd like to start with there is just setting the stage a little bit on where we are in the market today.
Great.
Excellent. Okay. So interest rates, as we all know, right now have grown rather quickly from where they were, let's say, 6 months ago. And that's caused some waves in the industry, as we know. So today, the actual statistics on that is that we're down on new home sales just a little bit over 7% year over year. And that statistic is from Zonda. And then 14+% in existing home sales, we are down as an industry. And that's from the National Association of Realtors. Now, that's big shock headlines, right? You see it in the news all the time right now. And the news is definitely playing that up with big, scary headlines. What you will see if you continue reading down the article is that actually brings us back to about 2020 numbers. So putting it in context, that is not a terrible place to be. Our industry is still well undersupplied on homes. So builders making the right conscientious decisions, still have a lot of opportunity to serve the market in these times.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that you are referencing to, we're just back to where it was really good before. Not crazy phenomenal like we have recently experienced, but it was really, really good back in 2020. So I know locally here, and I've got a brother that's a CFO for a custom home builder. And, again, that's a little different market than what you're focused on necessarily, but they are between 4 and 5 years out on contracts that they have, and they do their own development. And, they've got like 60 homes under construction, and these are high-end homes. So there's still a lot of action going on in a lot of the markets around. So I think to your point, things are still really good and solid. It just isn't at the crazy pace that was almost too fast anyway. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would agree. That kind of pace is unsustainable. And a big part of the reason for that is that people start to make rushed decisions that don't ultimately benefit them. And we get a lot of people flooding into the industry who are, as I used the term in my last interview with you, get rich quick schemers.
Yeah, right.
So those are people who muddy the water by driving up prices on land and materials and competition for trades that ultimately may not be in the business for the right reasons and have the ability to be a good long-term member of the community.
Yeah, so there's obviously different approaches to addressing these challenges. I know you, again, have been a big advocate for partnering and working with the same organizations, whether that's other contractors, I think in this particular part of the conversation, partnering up with the bank and having those relationships more established, and
Yes.
lines of credit and ground rules that you can plan on. What can you tell us about some of those approaches that have helped some of the people that you're advising?
Yes. So funding has two sides really to that conversation. Funding for you as the builder and developer, funding for your customers who are buying homes. And funding is really a question of strategy and of relationships. So, starting on the relationship side, what we see is that builders are much more likely to have strong funding access if they are good communicators, if they are working with a local or regional bank. That's one of our top pieces of advice with builders, even though we work with builders across the country, is to work with that local or regional bank where you can walk in the door, sit down, go through that project with your loan officer, have them drive by your site and see the progress that you're making. Those kinds of relationships keep things steady when that lender has questions. They have a real person and that relationship, and you're all part of the same business community. So they have some additional accountability, which is great for you as well.
Yeah, and every person involved in that back end of the process, they all want this deal to fund, so to speak, right? Nobody gets paid until it does. So as
Right.
long as the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, everybody wins when that loan closes, including the buyer. I mean, that was their goal, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Now, on the strategy side, our builders tend to use a combination of bank and investor funding for their projects. So that's definitely worth looking into, being able to take advantage of bank rates. But for that equity piece of the loan, look into opportunities with your legal counsel to bring investors into that scenario so that you can help to keep your own risk down while giving them an opportunity to invest in the real estate market, which many investors are currently looking to do.
Well, I love that you brought that up, and even more, I love that you talked about consulting with your legal counsel. We've all heard of deals that went south, or it seems like no matter who you're talking about, when a deal falls apart, everybody feels like they got the short end of the stick, no matter what end of the stick they got. So I think that's really prudent advice, and something that companies should be taking more advantage of, because there is money out there available for these types of projects.
Yes.
Just how it's all packaged, right?
Yes, we have private equity groups who have approached us and said, we're looking for XYZ in a builder. We're looking to place capital. Call us with those people. So they're certainly looking for the right opportunities to place their capital, and they're looking for solid builders to do it with.
Well, and back to your point of partnering, having a partner like your organization to help facilitate this and help guide that conversation, to take a builder by the hand and introduce them to these other potential relationships that can bless their business and their employees as well.
Yes, it lends a certain amount of credibility to have relationships outside of your own company, like what we do. Yes.
Yeah, you can get into doors that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get into on your own, right?
Right.
Love that. What about franchising or other approaches? Is that something you have any experience with or any perspective on you could share?
Yes. So, to give you a little background, actually, our company started in 1986 building active adult communities, and people started to notice what we were doing because it was unusual back then. We were early pioneers in that 55 plus niche, and people wanted to get in on what we were doing. So, we did some research and found that franchising was the best vehicle for us to be able to offer our support and our resources to local builders who wanted to take that proven product and bring it to their market.
Yeah, I think that's a less common approach, but I think it's super viable. And there are companies that have done a fantastic job of. We often think of restaurants or other things when we think of franchising, but there are companies that have done a fantastic job of putting systems and processes in place that are duplicatable, and there's people that have a need for those things. So again, great consideration, and glad that's something that you also help them consider as you're guiding them.
Yes, we find that we attract people who are innovative and collaborative, people that want to grow, but they want to grow smarter and more efficiently. by taking the advice and the support and the resources of somebody who's already doing it, has that track record.
I love that. Where were you guys when I was a builder 25 years ago?
Not too
You
late to
know?
come back, Mike.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah. We'll see. I'm having too much fun doing this, right?
You're pretty good at it.
No, that's very kind of you. I do very much enjoy it, and this industry is in my bones. So just love being involved with it in any capacity, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, was it you on your last or on the podcast with Brady that was talking about you like the blue collar aspect?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that
That is
spoke to
me.
me. Yeah, because my husband is in the industry and he loves to work with his hands so much. You know, he loves that. And one of the things I love about that is like people in this industry are like such salt of the earth, you know, down to earth, kind, like, and like in the best possible way, like just I don't know, reliable. Like you know that song "I Hold On" by Dirk Bentley. Like
Yes, I do.
that's a lot of the construction industry.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. My partner, that's our CEO, Ryan Remkus, he was a builder also, and we helped start this business nearly 20 years ago to help serve contractors to solve the challenges that we were having. And in that time, I've built. Let's see. I had just finished my personal home 3 homes ago. I built 2 other homes since then, since we started this business. And I did a lot of the labor myself, nights and weekends and holidays and on a lot of it. I was the acting general contractor, of course, but more than that, I did some of the framing. I did all the carpentry. I laid some of the tile, did some of the landscaping and the grading and the excavation and it's more just because I really love it. So it wasn't just to try
Yeah.
and save money. In some cases, it probably cost me more than I could have gotten it for, but I just love being involved in that, and it's just something that you take a lot of pride in, right?
Yeah, it feels good to see the work of your hands, right? The things
Yeah,
you like physically brought into reality.
most certainly, and I think that's the same with building and growing a business. And to your point earlier, when I was down at the Brain AEC Summit, I spent a couple of extra days visiting some customers, and there was a customer, JFK Electrical, down there in the Glendale, Arizona area that has just such a fascinating story. Family business, third generation, getting ready to turn it over to his son, and the owner. I mean, I think he's in his early 70s, and he's still there every day. He's the administrator over our product for their organization, tracking their labor and production and all these things in the field. And it's just fascinating to learn their backstory and to find out, as much as I love this industry, just for my own personal fulfillment, um, man, it means so much more to be able to share that passion with others and bless the lives of our customers. So it's just a full circle value, and I know you have that same passion for your customers and working with these same people. So it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually so I've noticed that with our builders, the ones that are have been with us long enough to build their business to the point where they have a team in place, they're in no hurry to retire. They're really enjoying being a part of that, you know, and then they go golfing, whatever, all the things that they do. But once that team is in place, it's a really a beautiful thing. And it's fun to see the customers, you know, thriving in that new home and come up to you later and say like, "Hey, I, you know, made new friends. I have a new lifestyle now." Because like for our demographic, for example, they are leaving their home where they raise their kids often, and they have raised successful human beings and they're off in college. That's a thing to celebrate, but there's also a little bit of adjustment that comes with that. So their feedback of being able to say, "Hey, I've created a new life in this house." And I think you can say that about every demographic, is that dream of creating that new life in that new home.
Yeah, for sure. I that was going back, way back, even 30 years ago when I was building custom homes. And before that, I worked for general contractor, and I was a project manager for basically a large volume project, and very much in line with a lot of what you're advising. 6 or 7 plan options and very structured. And you pick your lot, you pick your plan, you pick your colors. Here's everything. it was pretty innovative back then. In the late '90s, there wasn't a lot of that going on, but I ended up being the guy that did every walkthrough with every new homeowner and created their punch list, and then I helped facilitate and make sure that their items were completed. And I just absolutely loved it. And my boss, who was a great people person and just a great boss, a good friend, just didn't love that part of it. He didn't. He needed a layer between him and the customer, and I was happy to fill that. And so I think just to what you're saying, it just gets back to actually seeing those smiles and seeing how fulfilling this experience has been for somebody to enjoy this new home and turn over those keys, and then fix any of their worries or concerns, or help them understand why something's done the way it is, or what we can do to make adjustments that they'll feel better about. It goes back to I think why a lot of us are in this industry. I don't think most people are in it to get rich quick, so to speak. I think those people come and go, but generally speaking, it is a blue collar industry. It's people who are salt of the earth, like you said. And so I think that really leads into the next point I think that I'd like to discuss. And that's almost a four-letter word sometimes for some of us builders by heart, and that's marketing. We don't really want, I mean, I think a lot of companies struggle in this area. So what can you share with our listeners about what they can do to better market themselves and why it's so important, and maybe what tools there are available today to get that good word out so they can do more goodness?
Yes. So I had a mentor, a longtime mentor and men boss that I worked with in the technology industry. And he had this quote that I'll share here. And he says, there's margins in the mystery.
Okay.
So, margins in the mystery, meaning that there's ways to create value for your product that goes beyond the sticks and bricks, the per square foot cost. That's what marketing people do. That's what a really great marketing team does, is create a dream and really sell the lifestyle in the home beyond just the X dollars per square foot for this level of finishes and fixtures.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I really, really love that. So margins in the mystery, intrinsic
Yes.
value, right?
Yes. So instead of it being like, oh, well, this is what we build and here it is for you, it's actually painting the picture of and the value of, you're not just putting a roof over your head, but you're moving into a place where you're going to create memories, where your family's going to sit around the table for Thanksgiving, where you're going to sit out in your courtyard and have a glass of wine with your friends who visiting you from another town. You're going to lock and leave this house, and everything's going to be taken care of on the exterior, and you're in a nice, safe neighborhood so you can travel to Europe or visit your grandkids or whatever it is that you love to do.
Yeah, so I think I know in my business as a builder, before we started About Time Technologies, I eventually evolved to where I had real estate agents and model homes, and did a lot of what you're talking about too, offering preset plans and then customizing or tweaking those from there. But outside of hiring a real estate team or having a model home, what are some other marketing opportunities that companies can leverage for maybe not free but cheap, or less painful, I guess, from a financial standpoint?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's always great to and important to have a budget for marketing, that you're focused on that ROI and you're tracking. And our marketing team is exceptionally good at this, tracking the ROI of different things that they're putting out there. So they do a mix. They're going to employ a mix of social media marketing and pay per clicks. They have some digital online things, direct mail and paper advertising, because our demographic still connects with some of those things. And then they do things like events. We do a launch event for a community where people can reserve lots that we then convert to contracts that creates a lot of buzz about the community. We do grand openings, which, ribbon cuttings, those kinds of things that are a little bit more guerrilla marketing, more of that organic marketing, are very effective as well. And it helps to be well connected with that community, to know your fellow builders, to know your fellow developers, a municipality team, and other business people within the community, your bankers. All those people can help you to get the word out about your project and build the credibility of what you're creating.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. I know, in the software space, they always talk about, you can buy another company that is, similar to you or adds extra value, right? You can acquire them and merge or whatever. You can build, you can write the features, write that software, write those functions yourself, or you could partner. So it's buy, build, or partner. And lots of times, I think partnering and creating an integration and a connection between two systems, and like you are talking about this experience and marketing and painting that picture of what that experience is like to have the best of two systems collaborating and helping you solve, the 1+1 = 3 analogy. I think
Yes.
I think there's a lot of value in that, and I love that your organization is. What I'm feeling is that you're taking a lot of these headaches away from that blue collar builder. That, yeah, marketing's a 4 letter word. I just don't. It's not. We're not good at it. I used to brag about this, and I had lots of friends and other builders that I knew that would brag about, oh, we don't do any marketing. Everything's word of mouth. All we do is word of mouth. And it used to be a badge of honor that I think a lot of us would try and wear. But at the same time, it's like, if you really believe in your product, if you really love serving customers, if you really want to take care of your employees, and you have the ability to grow and a little bit of an appetite, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you
Right.
choose that better path to expand on what you're already doing well? So I love that your company's helping other businesses find those opportunities that you have the experience in, that you can again take them by the hand and kind of help them navigate those waters that they're not used to.
Yes, marketing is a critical strategy for people who are looking to grow beyond their referral base.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, beyond referral. Yeah, because those are going to come because you're doing a good job. You're taking care of
Yes.
people, um, which is fine. But there is more goodness out there to get to, right?
Yes, marketing is the voice for your product. So having a mix of marketing is a way to amplify that voice.
So then that leads into sales. Sales and marketing, or it's the two-headed dragon, right? You got to have both. What recommendations from a sales perspective do you have for people?
Well, our number one recommendation in sales is to have control of your sales force. We do not work with realtors solely. We do co-brokering. So what that means is we have in-house salespeople that will work with referrals from outside realtors. So if you are a home builder and only working with realtors, that might work if you're, let's say, under 10 or 15 houses per year. But if you want to grow beyond that point, having an in-house salesperson is central, because an in-house salesperson is going to be somebody that you can train or provide training to on your product exactly. Realtors are trained to take buyers to as many homes as they need to in as many communities from as many builders until they get that one that's going to close. So in-house salespeople are trained to sell your product. It would be like if you walked into a Verizon store, they're going to sell the phones that are in their inventory rather than somebody who would just take somebody from one Verizon store, one cell phone store to another finding the phone. You want that person that's dedicated to you, that's going to be available to tour the model home, to really expand on the benefits of what it is that you're offering specifically to them.
Yeah, I love that. Expand on and really have firsthand knowledge of that value that they can share, and probably customers and experience and stories that it can say, yeah, you're just like Mr. and Mrs. Jones here that, got this home 3 months ago, and here's what they loved
Exactly.
about it, right? They had the same experience and struggles and concerns as you do. In fact, here's her number if you want to talk to them.
Yes. And those salespeople are setting the stage for upgrades. So when our builders are scaling up, usually those salespeople will sell the upgrades, but then as they grow, they might have a designer involved with that process. But either way, that salesperson is setting the stage for the beautiful home with all the upgrades that your company offers, that buyer is going to be able to benefit from. And then likewise, the builder's benefiting from a in Target is going to be a better margin home.
Great advice. So, what about today with the just the great resignation, as it's been called. I don't know if I like that term or not. I don't know if I buy into all of it, but there's certainly some things going on out there that are different. And so there are new challenges. How important is it to have your company set up in a way that addresses that work-life balance and some of those other aspects of your employees' personal life that maybe affect their work more directly than maybe in the past we've been aware of?
Yes. So one of our builders shared a phrase with me that was going around at their company. He called it compassion fatigue.
Interesting.
It was all of their, yes, they've been in business and with us for over 20 years, and their team has been with them long term. And for that team to have to tell customers over and over again, your house is delayed, your closing is delayed, that requires a certain amount of empathy and compassion to communicate that well. And people were getting burnt out on that, having to give people bad news over and over and over again. So a big piece of that is just having support from the leadership of the company, because culture filters down. Culture doesn't come up from the bottom, it filters down from the top. So being able to support those people, being able to see when they need a break and get them out of the office, whether it's just to take an afternoon off or make sure they're taking their vacation time, rotating people who are giving the bad news so that they can break it up a little bit, are all helpful ways to help to share the load, because that goes back to, me, I'm a collaborator, us being better together. We can accomplish more as a team. And if we help to relieve each other of some of those tough pieces, then we'll all have more stamina.
Oh, so much great stuff here. I think, as I think back to our last episode and then this episode too, one thing that I just keep thinking about is just that ultra level of awareness that I feel like you're preaching and trying to advocate for in each aspect of the business. So there's all these different areas. There's challenges, like you've been saying. We got to figure out how to make the most of the opportunities that are there. And sometimes it's going to take partnering with someone else. Sometimes it's going to take, being creative. Sometimes it's going to take being compassionate and understanding. But at the same time, that's a lot for someone to digest and to, do all at once. And so, how do you recommend somebody, for lack of a better term, eats this elephant one bite at a time so that they're not overwhelmed?
I think the first piece there is to get down to nuts and bolts about what is important to you in your business and where you're going. What is your vision, your goal? Who are you as a company and where are you headed? First, having that vision, because if you have that, you can drive everything else towards that end. With that in place, and even just revisiting it, because we all do that. We all set our goals and plan on where we're going, but then we get distracted and sidetracked by life and by the industry and by people and by pitfalls, right? So revisiting that goal is pretty incremental, or pretty instrumental rather, to the vision, the direction that your company is going. And I would say, secondly to that, to be a lifetime learner, to visit podcasts like these, to make time every day to read a little bit or listen to a podcast or watch something on YouTube that is getting you toward that goal. Because those are the kind of things that help us to work smarter. We don't want to be the fly bashing ourselves against the window when the door's open right over there.
Right. That's a great analogy too, man. No wonder I have that headache going on right now.
We've all done it.
Yeah, sometimes a lot. So what about, I guess the last point, just so many great things in this discussion. What about dealing with government, like the municipalities, the cities, the permitting process, the inspections? Are there other things that you would advise companies to be aware of, or ways to approach things so that when they encounter these challenges that maybe are outside of their control to some degree, but they don't have to be as painful as they could have been?
Yes, and we know there are tremendous challenges here because many municipalities went to working from home during COVID and still kind of trickling back. So there's timing issues. There's more need for homes and demand for growth than there's necessarily desire from some municipalities to open up zoning where it needs to happen. So there are those challenges. And then just in terms of costs, the National Association of Home Builders studied this and determined that regulation adds approximately $94,000 to the cost of a $400,000 new home. And that's up $65,000 from just 10 years ago.
Wow.
So there are certainly challenges in those areas. How we are addressing those is partly, and I'll sound like a broken record here, but through those relationships. And it's very important to know your product when you are working with municipalities and what advantages that product is going to bring to that municipality. If you're building first-time homebuyer homes, and you can pitch our nation's crisis for affordable housing and how that municipality is going to help solve that for their community. If you're in active adult housing like we are, you can pitch to that municipality that this product is high tax revenue, low impact because of the fewer students for schools and the lower traffic, et cetera. Doing that research ahead of time to know what it is about your product that's going to help that municipality and their lives and their jobs be easier is really what people want to hear.
Yeah, it is. And you're marketing and selling to them, right? At this phase, you're not selling to the
Yes.
end buyer. You're selling your project to the city council or planning and zoning.
Yes. And if you're not the person that likes to have those conversations, finding the person on your team or hiring that person who, as I call it, is a little bit of a schmoozer and doesn't mind bringing lunch into the office and making friends down at the municipality, that's step one. You can't
Yeah,
skip that.
right. Well, and again, back to, your point earlier, you've got companies that are finding success in construction, looking for new opportunities, new markets, new niches to get into, like the one that you serve regularly, and partnering with an organization like yours to help navigate this water that might be new to companies. I think it's just a fantastic idea. You've got a wealth of knowledge and experience in this area, and it's been a great and enjoyable conversation. Is there anything else you would add here, or takeaways that you hope people come away with from this conversation?
I think the biggest takeaway here that I would like to share with people is that this really is a long-term vision to be great in this business. And if you've been in this business a long time, you know that already. If you're new, then you're learning that. But that the vision, that long-term vision, and having the ability to build character within yourself and your team and your processes and practices, like that never ends. It's always a process of continuing to grow. And that's what gets you to the point where you have the business in the format that you've dreamed of, that you can golf more or take more vacations, or you're to the point where you're ready to retire and your business is worth more because you've invested in those processes and practices that makes it valuable. That team, those standardized processes are really what make that happen.
Oh, that's a great takeaway. Love that. Well, just to wrap up, a couple of last things. What these are more personal questions, but what's the most valuable thing that you feel like you have learned through your experience of working through this last year?
This last year, interesting. Okay.
I know it's been different than other years, right?
Yes. Yeah. This year has really taught me a lot about persistence because, again, it's easy to do things when it's easy. I think we can all agree to that. But knowing why it's important that we do what we do. Like, I love, my favorite part about what I do is being able to help someone to create a vision for that additional division of their business, or to start one from scratch, and then to actually be with them, as you were saying earlier, to see it come to life. That model home is now complete and staged, and it's beautiful, and here come the houses, running down the row, and now these people are able to stand in their dream and say, I did it. Like, I accomplished that thing. I've achieved the growth that I wanted to achieve. I feel like, I'm giving back to my community and my team, and my finances are benefiting from it.
Oh, that's great. That's a great takeaway. What about productivity tools for you in business? What's the one thing that you just can't live without that you feel like is the most valuable productivity tool that you use?
I'm a huge fan of technology, Mike. So your products, are very interesting to me, and I think that builders, would be silly not to take advantage, because once we start to get good at something, if we can find a way to automate it, then that opens up time and space for us to dial in other areas, which ultimately translates to our bottom line. So my favorite technology, or the one I use the most today, is Zoom. But I have some automation programs that I use for my email and some things like that are very valuable as well.
I love that you're such an advocate for efficiency, and technology is really, I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, it frees us up to do the things that we really want to do.
Love that. All right, very last thing. So when Dominique puts her cape on in the morning to invoke that superpower that you embody, what are you getting ready to do? What is that superpower that you feel like you can call upon to really hit that home run, so to speak?
What is my superpower?
Yep.
I would call myself an optimist, but not a blind one. I think that my ability to proactively look for solutions and ways to be better with other people, to collaborate and create synergies, is probably my superpower.
Well, I would agree with that. It's been fun collaborating with you and getting to know you, and we've just had a great time these last couple of weeks having these discussions, and would love to check in with you again down the road and do this again sometime. This has been fascinating and a lot of fun.
Absolutely, Mike. This has been a pleasure for me as well, and I look forward to staying in touch and talking again.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for sharing so much good information. I think this is a real valuable episode that our listeners will really enjoy.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mobile Workforce Podcast, sponsored by About Time Technologies and WorkMax. If you liked the conversation we had today, or were able to learn anything new or helpful, please make sure to follow us on our WorkMax page on LinkedIn and on Instagram at WorkMax_. And subscribe to the show on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform so you will never miss another insightful episode. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review and share the show with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and will allow us to continue providing impactful information with others looking to improve their results in their business and, in turn, their life.